Arco is a supernatural, super hot infused spaghetti western that tells a really solid tale with some challenging gameplay to boot. Arco is a Mesoamerican style RPG in a land where magia or magic is in the very ground. When newcomers and colonists come to try and extract the oil and also remove the magic of the land, an attack on a wandering tribe will spark a decade's tale of vengeance, revenge, and bloodshed. And you'll be going along for the ride, one map and one shootout at a time. Arco is a full-style RPG split into different acts. Each act will have you playing as one of the principal characters of the story, with the final act bringing them all together for one last hurrah. Within each act, you'll explore the land one point of interest at a time, and there is a pretty heavy emphasis on choice. You'll be able to decide which quests you do and how you respond to them. Performing evil or violent acts will earn you guilt, which will cause the ghosts of your guilt to mess with you during combat. And certain quest lines and rewards will only be accessible if you have the right items and abilities at that time. There's also a kind of like special challenge involving finding kind of specific monoliths, which I was not able to do in my main play of it. Now, while wandering the land on your llama is all fun, and with some really great pixel art for the environments and backgrounds, the main aspect of Arco is its gameplay or its combat. As I said in the singer, the combat here feels like a spaghetti western meets Superhot. You'll go into each turn basically deciding the next about 1 second or so of play. Each character has access to weapons or attacks that can be either range, melee, or buff, debuffing, and movement skills. Each skill will cost a respectable amount of magia, and magia recovers when you're either walking around or just waiting. Now, every time you perform a command, the game and everyone on the field will perform their next action over the next second. After that, you'll be able to make another choice. And a lot of this gameplay is about you reading the opponents and the incoming projectiles, sword slashing, and shovel bashing that's going to be coming at you. And you'll need to kind of lead your shots, much like in Superhot, if you want to have any attempt of hitting enemies, especially with some of the more advanced skills that require at least a turn to either prime or to reach its destination. As the game goes on, you'll be fighting a variety of enemies, from giant bugs to ghosts to many varieties of outlaws and bandits. Now, when you begin playing Arco, you'll only have one party member, but as the game goes on, you'll be introduced to additional characters, and again, the final act has you playing at your max party size of 3. Each one of the main characters has a perk tree onto themselves, and you'll earn experience by completing quests or getting into fights. And there is quite a variety. Each character has kind of like 2 major ways of being built. Tizo, who you begin the game as, can be built as either a long-range archer / sniper, or can go in close for melee and stuns. And you'll get, again, access to 2 additional characters as the story moves along. A big aspect of the game is getting the permanent upgrade to your stats, being able to have more magia, as well as being able to increase the amount you get on each turn will help out quite a bit, as combat can certainly get challenging. Now, that does kind of take me to one of the issues I have with the game, is that it definitely can be a little bit spiky in spots, and a lot of that I think comes down to how the combat system works. Remember, this is a turn-based design, and you're going to have to be constantly moving around, trying to get in a position where you can get an attack off. Now, thankfully, after the game was released, they have patched in bullet predictions, so you can now see by pressing holding down spacebar where bullets are going to be going on their turn. This helps out quite a bit, especially in the back half of the game where you start running into more rapid-fire wielding enemies. However, the combat feels a little bit awkward when you're really outnumbered. And this happens more in the earlier chapters when it's just maybe you and maybe one other character. You see, the issue is that you can get in a situation where the enemies are attacking off cycle. So you'll go to dodge one attack, and before you get a chance to attack again, his buddy is about to attack you. And a lot of this will come down to what skills you choose. To make your life easier, my biggest advice to you is that you definitely want skills that can interrupt the enemy. You desperately need at least one movement/dodge skill in this game for each one of your characters, because trust me, you're going to need that. And when you start running into battles where there's like lots of little enemies or lots of spawners, having kind of like an AoE or like rush at the enemy skill will help out quite a bit. You are able to buy and find a lot of items as well, and you definitely want to make use of them, especially anything that can do long range attacks or heal when need be. Now, besides that, the difficulty of this game, I would say overall, will be moderate to moderately challenging. Once you kind of learn the basics for how moving and shooting will work, you should be able to handle most of the challenges. With the overall pacing, I did enjoy the story, and the music is phenomenal, especially the end of act kind of vocals that gets played. And I would have liked to have seen, I think, a little bit more interesting combat, especially with boss fights. There are a few boss fights and optional bosses sprinkled throughout the game, and they do a good job of testing you and pushing the combat into different directions. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that. Speaking of, the final act where you're able to finally use your party like at its full breadth is also the shortest one in the game. And it would have been nice to have more challenges and more ways to finally get like your full party untethered to go out and have some fun. I did run into a few kind of GUI issues and bugs, including like a weird sound corruption bug. And I would have liked the kind of being able to swap skills between the characters to use like a drag and drop rather than a hotkey approach. Other than that, the only other like minor nitpick I had was there were some issues with kind of like the mechanics that the game was telling me and what was happening on the screen. Like, I would aim my gun at a character, I see the kind of protection going right through the enemy's body, and the bullet still missed. So maybe my 100% chance to hit and still miss log from the XCOM likes is leaking through to this one. I still enjoyed Arco. It is a very solid game with a great take on kind of a turn-based or maybe like pausable real-time, bullet time strategy, however you want to call it, style of combat. And if you're looking for a very solid game, and one that will definitely give you a lot in terms of exploration and interesting gunfights as well, then I definitely recommend you check this one out. And I do hope we see like more content down the line for Arco, or another game that kind of makes use of this kind of like Superhot style, because it's something that we have only really have seen in the kind of FPS style or FPS genre. And this definitely proves that you can make this kind of like every second in action style work. Arco was played with a press key provided by the developer. In particular, your game in the future designed to involve the supernatural, Superhot, or shooting. Please reach out. Let me know what you think about this one down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see everyone in the next video. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and you're interested in more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.